Get us started. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Diana Camillo. I am one of the co-executive directors for the Center for Equity and Post-Secondary Attainment. I'm very excited for our continued webinar series, and this is part 2, Building Student-Driven College and Career Access Programming. It is with 2 of our faculty, both Mercedes Albaran and Rocio Zamora. Mercedes is a director of college persistence and completion, and Rocio is our director of college enrollment. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to both Mercedes and Rocio.
Thank you, Diana. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon now, it's noon. So thank you all for joining us. My name is Rocio, and I'm excited to share a little bit about our program and how we've really reimagined college access and career access support for our students. We're going to give an overview of the process in which we redesigned the college access and career access program, what we've done so far, and just give overall like our approach to college access and ensuring equity for our students. After that, we're going to go more into a dialogue and questions, and really you'll have an opportunity to just ask questions and engage in the conversation with us. We also actually have some of our staff from our program here, so you'll probably be able to hear from them as well. And Mercedes, did you want to? Oh, actually, let me share the screen, and then we can go ahead. So we do have our presentation titled Building Student-Driven College and Career Access Programming by Mercedes and myself. And like I said, my name is Rocio Zamora. I'm the director of college enrollment, and I oversee the K-12 component of college access, and I'm joined by my colleague who oversees the college persistence side, and I'll pass it over to her.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here today. Just to share a little bit about myself, my name is Mercedes. In my current role as director for college persistence and completion, I oversee and coordinate the programming and support services for our Hooper High School students. That as they transition from high school to college, as well as providing that continued support as students navigate their 2-year and 4-year college and university pathways. So in our next slide, I just wanted to go over just some of the data and research that has really driven us in reimagining college and career access. As we have seen in the past and continue to see today, Black and Latinx students, there is those pre-existing equity gaps in obtaining education that leads to achieving the American dream, which is providing that equal opportunity for upwards mobility, ability to achieve those high wage positions that can provide success economically and lead to a more comfortable life. Many of the opportunities are open to students if they are to continue their education, whether that is apprenticeships, obtaining a degree, going through a certification program. But many of the higher education opportunities that are promoted in high schools tend to be geared towards 4-year universities. And those traditional 4-year universities tend to seek those students that are traditional students that are able to live on campus, those students who are able to dedicate their full time to their studies and academics, who aren't, balancing part-time or even full-time work. And those students who have reliable transportation to campus. But oftentimes those measures of college readiness, those are based on white middle-class students as the dominant measure for meeting those academic and personal standards to succeed in college and life. So as those higher education institutions are continuing to drive those 2-year, 4-year graduation rates, we see those admission GPAs continue to increase. And those, as they're trying to continue to be more competitive, which that places a large amount of pressure on high school because those GPAs are geared towards high school performance. And that doesn't, serve our students well, especially students coming from low-income marginalized communities. Many of our students have those critical basic needs that need to be met, but they still have that drive and motivation to succeed and go to college. Next slide, please. So our director for research and evaluations, who's also here today, Trisha Hodge, she's reviewed college graduation rates for our students within the Hoover High School class of 2014. Just seeing how students have enrolled in college. And as you can see in the graphic, only 58% were enrolled in college after their first year. 10% completed their degree or certificate in 4 years, and 19% completed their degree or certificate after 6 years. And you can see below that the percentages are very similar amongst high poverty high schools based on National Student Clearinghouse. So now, with the pandemic, we have another factor that's impacting student decisions to go to college. And the pandemic really, magnified inequities, especially, the school closures, social isolation. It really affected all students, but in particularly those living in poverty. And adding to that damage, we see increases in mental health crisis as students lost a lot of services as well that were offered by the schools. Next slide, please. A powerful quote that we have here is from a student from the class of 2021 regarding the pandemic and students' post-secondary decisions. And in this quote, you see the student stating, we are new to things and just being pushed into adulthood. There are things that would go over smoother with things like college, money, and jobs if there's proper guidance. So we still see that there's that want to go to college, but there's that need for guidance and support. Next slide, please. Looking at the class of 2019, class of 2020, and class of 2021, these are classes of high school students who graduated from high school after completing a portion or even a majority of their high school year during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we see the direct high school and college enrollment has decreased substantially, especially with high minoritized, high poverty, and low income high schools, seeing the largest decline. And looking at this infographic here, we can see that, class of 2019, this particular class of high school, they were the first year of college where the pandemic arose. And you can see that 26.1% chose not to return to college for their sophomore year. And this was the biggest drop in retention to sophomore year amongst community college students, and 71% experience increased stress and anxiety. And then you can see the class of 2020, this is a year where students were entering college, and this is where higher education institutions were completely providing just virtual experiences. They were not providing in-person instruction. They were operating with virtual learning platforms for teaching classes. And during this time, low-income high schools saw a 10.7% college enrollment decrease. 47% indicated they intended to change their plans for college, with 48% reporting that they would defer enrollment or look for a different school. And looking at class of 2021, there continues to be a decline in college enrollment as it fell an additional 2.7%. In addition, you continue to see mental health being at the forefront, with 76% identifying mental health as a significant concern or some concern. And there's also 38% of college-bound students reporting that their first choice of college changed as they're still navigating the constant changes of COVID-19, not knowing whether courses would continue being virtual, whether they should stay closer to home, is it worth moving, relocating, things like that. Next slide, please. Now looking at class of 2022, we're finding 76% plan to pursue post-secondary education. However, there's still that great concern with seniors you know, explaining that they're concerned about needing to just graduate high school and complete their high school courses. 45% indicated that their most urgent need right now is supporting paying for college, and 44% indicated mental health is still, you know, that priority. And there has also been a spike in seniors needing a job right now, concerned with jobs after graduation. So looking at all of this, we're trying to create a student-driven program to learn from students about what their post-secondary needs are and how to intentionally create that program. Next slide, please. So we set out to survey students. There was 903 students that were surveyed in grades 9 through 11 at Hoover High School. And we were intentionally looking at Hoover High School in order to redesign a program that had existed there, a college access program, and trying to create it with more of a student-centered framework, something that was more holistic and meeting the needs of the students. And so we asked students about their plans after high school, how much help they might need, their interest in different types of activities, participation in clubs and programs, as well as the skills they've learned through their Hoover High School Academy. So Hoover High School in particular has curriculum that integrates electives and projects that are learning experiences based on these themes or interest areas. So these academies, they include health, information technology, engineering and building, literature, media and arts, and social justice. And from the survey, this is what we found. Next slide, please. From the survey, we found out that 68% have some type of college in their future plans, and they're looking, you know, towards that. They're looking towards college. They're looking towards career. What are the next steps after high school? Next slide, please. And there's that need for support. 87% reported that they need some type of help with planning for college, and 85% of all students reported that they need some type of help with planning for their career. So now I will pass it over to Rocio to talk about Avenues for Success, which is the program that was designed to be student-centered, provide equity, inclusion for all students in need of that support with a more holistic approach.
Thanks, Mercedes. So given all of that context, right, we got surveys, we got student voice from the surveys. Our coordinators went into all the English classes, lunchtime, really, and some of our coordinators are here. So y'all remember all the hard work you did in collecting data and reaching out to students to make sure we get as many of them filling out the survey, so that can inform how we can redesign a college access and college career preparation program at Hoover High School. And for those who may not be familiar with Hoover High School is a high school that's located in the inner city of San Diego. The population is mostly students of color, mostly low-income students, first-generation students, refugee students, immigrant students, really one of the very diverse areas of San Diego. And so with that context, we know from the data that, you know, our students are struggling a lot, but 85%, they still want some support for college. I know our students have high aspirational capital, they're driven, they're motivated. So how do we create something that supports their needs and that's really listening to what they wanted? And when it came to increasing equity, and we wanted to start even from the beginning of how we enroll our students and into our program and how they become scholars. And through that, we decided to reject the traditional application form and create an interest form. So if 85% are interested in receiving some support, you know, those students should probably receive that support and they're deserving of receiving the support. So instead of creating an application, we called an interest form. We didn't require a GPA. We didn't require letters of recommendation. We didn't go through an interview process. And we just asked them about their motivation for wanting to pursue a post-secondary education. And through that, you even see some of the quotes on the left, right? They're motivated by their communities, by giving back to their families. A lot of them, you know, they still have that motivation. They just need that support. So we ended up accepting everyone into our program. And, you know, we have now students ranging from really high GPAs to students that need more academic support and, you know, couldn't get a high GPA. And I'm really excited about this because for us, I think it really shows that we were intentional about serving all students that need help, and we're rejecting that notion of, you know, there's a typical college-bound student, what that looks a certain way, that does certain things, but given all the obstacles that our students face, and I think one of the quotes that Mercedes brought earlier, that typically that model is based on the middle class white student who has the time to do all the homework, who doesn't have outside factors that are inhibiting their academic success. And so for us to really see and hear from the students and the experiences that they're struggling with, but the desire to succeed, we thought it was really important to send the message that, you know, everyone who wants to have support for post-secondary education is deserving of that. So we filled out that interest form and pretty much accepted all of our students, gave them an orientation and a welcome, and still celebrated that they took initiative to apply to a program and to plan for their future. So we ended up redesigning our college access program to include career access as well, and to include the persistence component, which is Mercedes' work. So as you all saw previously, the program was enrolling students into college, but students weren't graduating. So they still needed that support. There's a lot of challenges that our students are still going to experience once they're in college. So it's great that we have a persistence component, and Mercedes will talk about that more in the next slides. One thing that we changed within the high school support is that we provide support for students that want to go to a two-year college. They want to go to a community college. That's great. We have to acknowledge that, you know, a lot of our students, even before the pandemic, they were not just students, they were workers as well. A lot of times, community college does offer a more flexible schedule for them. Our undocumented students, we have a lot of students who are undocumented and receive very limited financial aid. So community college is more accessible to them and to fit their needs. So we want to make sure that we support those students as well. We are also offering support for students that want to go directly into the workforce. And that's important as well, because going back to the pandemic, our students were already struggling financially, but these economic inequalities exacerbated after the pandemic. And so you see a lot of our students that they need to make money right now. They need to provide support for their families. Sometimes hardships happen and they become some of the main breadwinners in the family. And so how do we also support those students in making sure that we're connecting them with well-paying jobs, that can become a professional development opportunity, that they're still getting support, and that they're not just sort of left there to figure things out on their own. So whatever our students' goal is, we are striving to make sure that we equip them for that goal. And if you all read some of the blogs that led up to this webinar, one of the things that I wrote about was in my approach of holding self-determination as one of the key principles that guides me in doing college access work and post-secondary support work, because typically we always, promote four-year college, which is great. We should still inform our students, but to allow them to make the choices that best fits their needs and making sure that we provide them the support. I think especially now is really more important for our students, and it comes down to meeting the students where they're at and not thinking that as adults we know better and we know what pathway they should take. So, and back to the GPA, we no longer use a minimum GPA required for eligibility. And I think that's even more important with the pandemic, given everything was online. Like we can't punish students and not give them support for not having a high GPA. When they had to do school online, they may not have an environment where they can study well. They're facing all of these other barriers. So just sending the message that, you know, college is still possible for you. Maybe it's going to look a different way, but you're still going to be able to accomplish your goals and get support. So a little overview about our program. We are actually under the Center for Equity and Post-Secondary Attainment. So we are employees of San Diego State University. Under that center, we have our Avenues for Success program, which has 3 components. So college enrollment, that's Mercedes's work. And then we are expanding the career pathways work, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And the college persistence and completion is Mercedes's work. College enrollment, that's my work. So that's helping students get to college. And then if you see here, we have Hoover Community Connections. So at Hoover High School, we have a lot of community organizations, nonprofits, partners that support the students at Hoover, and we all meet regularly to communicate about what type of support we're offering for our students. So that's the Hoover Community Connections. And then one really special thing that we have under the college enrollment is the College Avenue Compact, which is a guaranteed admission between Hoover High School and San Diego State University, which pretty much lays out requirements that if students complete these requirements, they are guaranteed admission into San Diego State University, which is great because it's a direct pathway into a university. And the requirements look like completing your A through G classes with a C or higher, getting a minimum 3.0 GPA, demonstrating college readiness in math, English, etc. Typical college requirements. But the great thing is that it's a guaranteed admission. And as I'm sure y'all know, it's really competitive to get into higher ed nowadays. A lot of folks that have the time to, just be students and get really high grades or do extracurriculars that are not paid, make up the competitive applicant pool. So for a lot of times, students that don't have that access, it becomes harder to compete. So it's great that we have this guaranteed admission for our students. And so within our program, one thing that we also added was that now we have 4 grade level coordinators. So these are full-time professionals who advise our students on college and career planning. And they are actually in the high schools. They all work directly in the high schools. We're in the library. Students know that they can find us there before school, during school, at lunch, after school. And each of the coordinators has a caseload of students. So from the interest form, we were able to enroll those students and have them be a part of the caseload of our coordinators. Each of them is pretty much responsible for a class. So we'll have class of 2024, class of 2025. Essentially, if the students will go throughout high school and have the same coordinator guide them until high school graduation. And we actually have one of our coordinators here today who's going to talk a little bit about his approach and how he supports some of our students. So Rong, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Rong Zhang, and I'm the 12th grade coordinator for Avenues for Success. And I think my approach to working with students really goes hand in hand in how Rishi was talking about how Avenues for Success was formed, where we really took in a lot of students from a very diversified standpoint, where my caseload of students, I've had students who are high achieving students who really are UC bound, private bound, but I also have students who need more support meeting graduation requirements that kind of need that extra support academically. And I feel like that goes hand in hand in how I treat my sessions, where it's really student centered and driven, where how do I really spend the time to understand where the student is at and what their needs are, and how do I fill my role in really guiding them and supporting them through their own process, but also being mindful of certain things that Rasul mentioned with pandemic, addressing the issue of undermatching. And I think that really stems from understanding the role that I have and the rapport that I have with students, and really guiding them through that process, where I've had students, work on their college essays as 11th graders, even though that's not going to happen until 12th grade for the application process. And I've also had students speak with me about how they can be on track to graduation, and kind of providing them support with tutoring, meeting with their teacher. And I think it just really goes in a synergy way of like our program and our philosophy, and how we really support all students. And I think in my role, it's just having that mindfulness and having that time where I build my understanding and my connection with each and every student that I have, and guiding them in their own process, while supporting them with their own kind of like ambitions, as well as my own kind of forms of avenues for them as well. So I think that's basically how I approach it. And I think, it really speaks in how I talk and work with students. And it's definitely an important approach, and it's what I believe in.
Thank you, Rong. So yeah, our scholars get the support of our wonderful coordinators, and they guide them in reflecting on their strengths, interests, just identity development, career aspirations, developing professional skills. And our scholars receive support not just through one-on-one advising through the coordinators, but we also host workshops, we host field trips, we have a college and career club, and that's where they're able to also do all of these items that are on the slide. We did have a partnership with San Diego Workforce, and so through that partnership, we were able to expose our students to priority sectors, which is pretty much jobs that are high wages, that are growing, that have a likelihood to even grow more in the future, and connect our students with understanding what pathways you can take to get those jobs. We were able to pilot a curriculum where our students were able to understand their own interests and who they are as it relates to careers. So we, the RIASECT, if folks are familiar with that, it's an assessment that students take, and it'll let them know if they are a doer, a thinker, a creator, and within that category, what does that entail, and what jobs align with those categories. So our students were able to take that, and through that, they were able to connect it to priority sectors. So these are some of the posters that we have on our career hub, and it's a little blurry, but pretty much it'll have each sector listed. It'll list the RIASECT theme that is used in that sector. It'll show how much they earn. It'll also show how what degree they need to get there, whether it's a college degree or an apprenticeship, because we're also promoting that as well for our students who want to do that. And it'll have where they work in San Diego. This was also created in communication with the directors of our academies. So Hoover High School is divided in academies, which I like to think of it as smaller communities. When students are enrolled into Hoover High School, they select what academy they want to be a part of. Do they want to be a part of the Arts and Letters Academy, the Technology Academy, the Health Academy, etc. And through that academy, they're going to receive curriculum that's based on those careers. So we communicated with them and wanted to make sure that the information we were giving them, we were giving in our program, was also aligning with what they were receiving at the high school. So going back to the career component, we are seeking to expand that. And we actually got selected for the social capital for one of the Siemens Foundation grants to create a director of career in a career and social capital and expand pretty much social capital for our students. And we want to increase awareness in STEM careers, teaching them how to how to network, how to use their own skills and connections and elevate that to give them more career opportunities. And we are one of 5 sites in the nation that was selected to pilot career and social capital work. So this will be our first year really taking that on and expanding that. And another aspect that we want to talk about, so the family engagement component, which is really important, as you saw in some of the responses of our students when they were filling out the interest form. I want to go to college because I want to, help make my parents proud, and I want to help my family. And, like I said, most of our students are students of color. We come from interdependent communities where our families are really important for us. And therefore, it's important to also engage the families and the parents in this work. And we have a family and parent coordinator who provides individualized advising for our parents, who connects them with resources at Hoover, who guides them through understanding the college access requirements, how to get to college, and also guides them in understanding where their students are at in the college admission process. She's been able to do virtual appointments or in-person appointments at the school. And she's also based at Hoover High School. One thing to note too is that Jackie is from the City Heights community. She has a lot of connections there. So I think that's also been really helpful in terms of the parents and families just having a lot of trust in her. She was able to do some focus groups, and our families are really excited for their students to finish high school, be happy, have a better life. And they also, want to share with parents, just never give up and get involved in school. So with Jackie's support, we were able to create a parent academy, which was a series of 6 workshops designed to help parents understand the college going process. And it was in person. It was sort of cohort based. We really wanted to build community and connect parents with other parents so that they can have a network of support. We met at Hoover, and pretty much these are some of the workshop topics that we had. Our first one was a parent panel. And that one, we brought other parents who were, whose students, whose sons, daughters, etc., were the first to go to college. And so those parents were able to talk about the experience of what is it like to have your son or daughter go to college and be the first one in the family? What is it like to have them move away? How did you support them? And I think that was really great in the way that it was parents speaking to other parents. We just facilitated that process. But in terms of taking that asset-based approach, it's really demonstrating that, our parents have the skills and the qualities to support their students. How do we just help facilitate that process? And it was a great event. I think our parents were able to connect and relate to other parents, especially when it comes to the conversation of, oh, my student is going far away from home. What was that like? So that was the first session. The second session, we focused a lot on helping our parents understand PowerSchool. So PowerSchool, if you are not familiar with it, it's an online system that the district uses where you can see the students' grades, you can contact the teachers, you can see their schedule. And a lot of our parents struggle with digital access, digital literacy. And so we wanted to make sure that they felt supported in understanding how to navigate PowerSchool and how to monitor the grades of their students, as well as learn about the Hoover resources and how to navigate the school. This one was actually in collaboration with the site technician of Hoover High School. So we did have some staff collaboration there, and he was able to guide our parents and make himself available for follow-up appointments as well for understanding PowerSchool. The workshop number 3 was academic habits for my students. So this one we collaborated with a one of our high school counselors. And she came and talked about AP courses. How do they enroll students in AP courses? What's the difference between an AP course? How does it help students get into college? And really our parents were able to ask a lot of questions about class scheduling and connect with another high school staff and understand the differences in academics as it relates to college. The fourth workshop is how to get to college, just the helping parents understand all the factors that come into the college admissions process. Typically, we always hear, get good grades, which is great. But how do we also share, what are the A through G classes? What are extracurriculars, leadership opportunities, all the other factors that come into play? So we were able to do that one in that workshop. The next one was the financial aid overview. And that one, we did it through a bingo game and a discussion. So once again, we really didn't want to just throw information at them. We wanted to be more engaging and just build community with our parents. And so we would read out financial aid terms. For example, we would read out the definition, free application for federal student aid. What is that? And then if they have FAFSA, they mark, oh, we have FAFSA. And then we engage in a conversation. Who has filled out FAFSA? What do you know about this application? What kind of financial aid is available? And just facilitate that conversation as well, so that they can also see that they also have that knowledge. The last one was about the transition into college. So just showing that, yes, once you get to college, that's one milestone, but the journey does not end. And there's so many other struggles and hardships and opportunities that come for our students who are enrolled in college. So what are the resources to make sure that we get them to the finish line of graduating college? And the last one was our closing ceremony. So we had a graduation ceremony for our parents where we had them walk up and we would award them a medal, and they brought their families, had some food, and really just celebrated their accomplishment and their commitment to spending 7 weeks with us on learning this. So that being said, I'm going to pass it back to Mercedes, who's going to talk a little bit more about the college persistence support.
Yes, thank you, Rocio. So for the College Persistence Program, this is something that was newly developed. It hadn't existed before and was implemented as a part of the Avenues for Success program to really provide that support to students once they graduate from high school. Because as we saw with the data, we saw that there were students that were, enrolling in college, but not persisting, not graduating and completing their degrees. And especially now, even more so with the pandemic impacting students' decisions to go to college, it's so important that we provide that support to students and help build those connections with students starting in high school. And what's unique about my position is I'm able to connect and attend different events at the high school, meet the students, the seniors, learn about their college aspirations, and then support them in that transition from high school to college. So some of the activities that we were able to do with the high school seniors this year was we were able to take students to college admit days. So we sponsored 3 college field trips to some of the local San Diego colleges. We took students and their families to San Diego State University's Admit Day, California State University San Marcos College Admit Day, and then San Diego City College as well, their open house, which is a community college in San Diego. And so we took these students to explore the campuses, on campus tours, visit with campus representatives. They were able to attend workshops on the California Promise about financial aid, to learn about ways to support them in paying for their tuition, different support services for first-year students, learning about other support programs that are available at the various campuses, as well as visit identity centers that exist on the college campuses and attend some college workshops. Some were on social capital and imposter syndrome. So students were able to engage with students currently attending those college campuses and feel that energy that they get from attending an admit day, seeing all the tabling, all the band, the music, the food. So they were able to really experience college in a different way than what you can see on a website when you're kind of considering what college do I want to attend. So this really helps and supports students with the college decision-making process, really understanding, you know, I've been admitted to the school, what college do I want to attend? Where do I want to sign my intent to enroll? And giving the opportunity for students to have that transportation to go to these campuses in person, sponsoring, you know, providing the food and while we're there, and really guiding them through the open house experience that admit day was really just great to be able to do for our senior students this year and want to continue each year. So with this college persistence program, we really are starting with the class of 2021 and moving forward with the graduating classes continuing from Hoover High School. And so as each year grows, we'll continue to grow our support and services to our alumni at the various campuses that they're attending. What's unique about Hoover High School and San Diego State University is that we have this memorandum of understanding based on the guaranteed admission that we have with that school and that campus. So that allows for a whole nother layer with our San Diego State University students being able to have access to real-time data, information, to reports, to be able to track student progress and their enrollment throughout the semester, and really provide that proactive outreach, you know, include these preventative strategies from students like disengaging. So I'm able to see students, whether they're registered in courses, whether students are on academic probation, and students who are no longer enrolled at San Diego State. So I'm able to reach out to the students, connect them with campus partners, support them through that process of, you know, academic policy, understanding academic policies, helping with the course registration, questions they might have about financial aid. And it's a very good collaborative approach that we have with SDSU, and we're building those partnerships as well with the local San Diego colleges and developing those liaisons at each of the college campuses so that we have a point of contact that we can provide a warm handoff to students from representatives that we know that are there at those campuses that are supportive of our students and want to provide that additional support when students encounter challenges or experience difficulties when trying to navigate the processes that are in place at a university or college. And part of the college persistence programming also includes for all our Hoover High School alumni, whether we have access to data and real-time progress, is we provide that one-on-one advising, that personal, academic, professional support. I am sharing constantly with students professional development opportunities that are available, events that are going on at their campus, providing support if students need sponsoring for attending, for instance, like a leadership summit or conference, something that will help benefit them for developing their resume and preparing them for life after graduation, reminding students about registration timelines, FAFSA renewal timelines, and then really connecting them again to campus partners, liaisons, and communicating them with regularly to check in on their college experience, how they're doing, if they're still enrolled, and things like that. Next slide, please. And I'm also able to provide social events for students and really provide opportunities for alumni to come back to Hoover High School and as an alumni panel, share their college experiences with current students that are attending Hoover High School in the 9th through 12th grade. So this last year as well, we had a workshop on transitioning from high school to college, and we invited alumni to come and present. They were able to provide tips, advice, things that they wish they learned their first year of college that they wanted to share with students. And then we will also be doing a summer college academy this summer as well, which again is to really build that community. So we have our current graduating class of 2022, and we're connecting them with our last year's graduating class of 2021. And we're doing a series of field trips to college campuses, to museums, art exhibitions, and doing team building, developing leadership skills, exposing them to each other in order to just create that and build that social capital and that networking. So we're continuously trying to provide support, share professional development opportunities, and connect students to those real hands-on work experiences, those internship opportunities, helping students with reviewing their resume, preparing for interviews, so that, again, they can find positions, find exposure to areas related to their major, so that way they're better prepared for when they graduate. Next slide, please. And so here is our social media as well. You can connect with us there. You can see the different events that we are hosting throughout the year, as well as great information about our program. This is another way for us to also connect with students. So we're constantly trying to meet the students where they're at, whether it's in person, online, through social media. We want to be able to provide different outlets for students to receive our information, communicate with us, and connect. And that is all for us today. So we want to open up this next about 15 minutes to allow for any questions, any discussions. Thank you.
Hi, I have a question and a few comments. This is Angelica. Can you hear me okay? Can I get a thumbs up? I think I see. Yeah, okay, perfect. Sorry, I had to switch from my computer to my phone. However, I was first wanting just to applaud the student coordinators. I think that is, of course, that peer buy-in is really important, and sounds like he's on top of it. So that's so great. And then the second question that I do have, I guess my first question is, where are the, or how are you all working with the school counselors at Hoover Academy with this process? My new role, I'm from New Mexico. I've been a school counselor for 9 years, and I just switched over to be a school counselor liaison for the state of New Mexico. So really trying to push first that career information out, like where are you at, students, right? And then going from there as far as planning. So where have you all been working with the school counselors in this initiative?
Thank you, Angelica. We collaborate with the high school counselors through different ways. I attend the high school counselor meetings, and so through there, I'm able to see what they're working on. I give them updates on what we're working on, and that way we make sure we're not replicating the same information. A lot of times we'll, they'll send me information on just college access partners, and they'll help us like spread the word on our programs. So we keep each other up to date on what programs we're doing. This year, we actually collaborated on some classroom presentations. So some of our coordinators went into the classrooms and worked with the high school counselors to develop content on how to choose the right college, how to find a right fit, how to pick a major, etc. Additionally, I know when our coordinators are working individually with students, there's some moments where they may reach out to a counselor and just ask additional questions about a student. I'm not sure if, Ron, you want to answer a little bit more about other ways you've collaborated with the counselors?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. And I would say from my experience, it kind of goes to what Rocio was going over, but I would just view my role in the sense of like, how do I work in conjunction with a counselor to better support the student, right? So Rocio kind of briefly mentioned like the presentations was a perfect example where there's a lot of that college career component that unfortunately counselors may not have the time to really kind of dive into because they're having a large case of students. Their goal is to meeting graduation. They're dealing with social emotional like concerns. So that's kind of like that balance, I would say, from a collaborative standpoint. From a coordinator kind of perspective, when I work with a student, it's kind of from the sense of like, okay, if I'm working with a student, if there's certain issues and topics that are either beyond my scope or need, I usually tend to reach other counselor. And sometimes that can be social emotional, where even though I have a degree in counseling, I don't have a PPS to that degree, where if it's beyond my kind of capacity or knowledge, I would be more comfortable reaching out to their counselor. And that could be academic as well, where, okay, so-and-so student has a 3.5 GPA. That means they qualify for a UC application, CSU application. They want to apply it, but I see they have a D in a certain course. And it's like, okay, does the student know they have to retake that? I can cover that. But does the counselor have them in the process where they're doing it? And it's kind of reaching out, hey, so-and-so student, they need to retake this class. Are they set? So I would say, if that answers your question, I would kind of more or less perceive it as like, how am I supporting the student while working with the counselor to like kind of not fill pitfalls, but like, how do I ensure that nobody falls under the cracks for my students? But you can also argue that's from a college and career like culture standpoint too. So I hope that kind of answered it.
Yeah, no, that was great. I really appreciate that, and just knowing that, the school counselors, your school counselor is open to that, and, just for that extra support because of the large caseloads. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Can I jump in for just 1 second here? Oh, now you all moved. Okay, great. I'm Laura Owen, and I work with Deanna and all these lovely folks in the center. And one thing I just wanted to share is we're really fortunate with all of our staff to have such a large percentage of our staff have a master's degree. We have several staff members who are licensed through the state of California as PPS credential is what it's called here in school counseling, even though they've worked some in higher ed or in different college access work. So I feel like in addition to the work they get to do with the counselors, which is a really collaborative approach, and that the counselors, I think, would love for the team to take on even more, especially as the last couple of years have taken, a bulk of their time in more of the social emotional space, and they've had less opportunity to do a lot of the college and career work. But I do think it's something that the program is really trying to be very intentional about, and really in the ways we think about how we collaborate with the counselors. And I just wanted to add that I think there's a unique background of our team's experience, as well as the way we get to be integrated and work within the school. They all have offices at Hoover High School. They have San Diego Unified ID, and so it's a pretty unique setup. I've seen a lot of college and career access work in my career, and you don't usually get this kind of integration, into a school. Often these college access programs are pretty exterior to the K-12 system, whereas this program is really integrated, meeting with the principal, in the building, which is really nice. I think it gives a lot more opportunity. I've also never seen a program that was this well resourced, so that's pretty amazing as well.
I have a question. I'm Karen Keegan from the Delaware Department of Education. I'm a huge fan of every single thing that you guys do. The minute I see something pop up on Twitter, it's like I'm signing up for whatever it is. So really give you guys a lot of credit. And this was so interesting. So from my perspective, I think about how do we scale this, something like this statewide. I mean, Delaware is a lot different than California, of course. So I know you're not comparing apples to apples, but do you have plan? I'm trying to figure out what my question is, but I guess one question is, do you have plans to move it beyond one high school? And I think my other question is, do you make any of these materials available, or is it proprietary to San Diego State University?
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. I'm your biggest fan, I think.
It's nice to see you. So I'll try to, I hope I touch on all the questions you asked. One, are talks right now of expanding potentially into other parts of San Diego to do some of this work. But we're also a center that's very much geared at being a national center. And so thinking about the ways in which we can expand it. We're also working on tools. I wouldn't say that it's proprietary. I think what we're trying to figure out is the best way to share materials. And so like if you go to the center's website now, you can see that we're building out some of that. We're a brand new center. We're only about 16 months into our center being formed. But I would say to anyone on the call, if there's something you want or something you were interested in, you know, reach out. Mercedes and Rocio and the coordinators, they've got an incredible amount of information. Tricia, who's here, who can like share with you like a ton of data and evaluation that's been done that really led to our programming. And then a really exciting thing that we're expanding this year, and Deanna could talk about it, as well as bringing on 10 national school counselor fellows. And Lydia's with us. I don't know if anyone else is here, but Lydia is one of our brand new school counseling fellows. And so we're looking at ways of bringing in, engaging with the school counseling community across the country and thinking about how we can grow the work that we're doing. We're thinking about some conferences in San Diego that we can engage in, as well as the Kresge Foundation has been funding us to do the national survey to understand how students' post-secondary choices are being impacted as a result of the pandemic. So we're trying to get that out. So yes, and that was a long question to say yes. I hope that we'll get it out. And in terms of the resources, I don't think there's anything we're sitting on that we wouldn't be willing to share or want to get out. I mean, our Rocio and Mercedes, just the wealth of knowledge that they bring into this space. And I think that there's not a lot of programming that we typically see that's led by two women of color who their expertise, their lived experience just brings so much value into not only what we're doing here at Hoover, but I think nationally as well. Our whole team, really. And
Yeah.
do you want to jump in? And
I just wanted to say quickly, right, because I think hopefully as we continue to build the website and disseminate information, I think, and this is something that Laura and I talk about at the core of the center really is our goal is to get the information out to practitioners, right? Because we know that information can sit on many different platforms, whether it's the practitioner, the researcher, the scholars, those in higher ed, those in leadership, right? And so information that is critical to the work being done can be lost, right? And so our goal, especially because, Laura has done such a phenomenal work in terms of building partnerships with many different entities, sort of how do we take this information that's being held across different platforms and we get it out to practitioners? Because at the end of the day, it's the practitioners, right, who are implementing and doing the work. And so we need to make sure that we inform them, and hence why we have, the webinars and all these different things that we're making available, because we also know, right, like no one's going to sit around and read a 20, 30 page manuscript, right? But as a counselor, we have the time to go to a website and grab information that's going to be relevant and up to date and evidence-based. And so at the core of the work that that the center is doing is making sure that we provide well-informed and up-to-date information to the practitioners. And so hopefully that continues to come across in how we make decisions depending on programming or grant funding or whatever else we put forth. So I just wanted to add that because I think that's sort of the pillar of what we want to do, because most of us, I think all of us, are previous practitioners. So we know how important it is to get that information.
I was just gonna say, is there any way we can get a copy of these slides? And also if you're her #1 fan, I'm gonna argue with you over that because I'm so excited for October, but is there any way we can get a copy of the slides? Just because I was like taking snapshots and taking notes. There was just so much great information.
Yeah, as
I
usual.
applaud you all. This is such good, like, this is amazing work.
Thank you, Lydia. Yeah, thank you to everyone on the team. We always upload our webinars, and within that, we'll link the slides as well, so that those can be downloadable. Well, with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Again, make sure to stay up to date with additional forthcoming webinars that we'll feature, as well as all the information that we will continue to upload. Laura just added the link to the webinars on the chat, so if you want to grab that before we end today. And hopefully you all have a great rest of the day and a relaxing weekend.